What is up, movie buffs? Row Show Movie Reviews. In this review, I'm going to be breaking down the original Friday the 13th from 1980. As always, quick disclaimer, if you haven't seen Friday the 13th, the original from 1980, please go watch that movie. And if you choose to come back to the review, awesome. But I don't want to put anything in the video that's going to be a spoiler for you, that if you haven't seen the movie will ruin anything. So if you haven't seen it, go check that out and then come back if you choose to do so. Join in the conversation, leave a comment in the section below, and I'll be happy to reply. So, getting into Friday the 13th, the original from 1980. This movie was obviously done on the heels of the popularity of John Carpenter's Halloween, which was a low-budget horror movie that took the world by storm and for a long period of time was the highest-grossing, basically independent film of all time. It's still one of the greatest, if not arguably the greatest horror movie of all time, slasher of all times, I guess, if you want to say, up there with the original Psycho. So Sean S. Cunningham had the idea to kind of put something together, low budget, off of the heels of the success of Halloween. And this movie was really made to kind of, create some money so that Sean Cunningham could do some other projects. Lo and behold, I mean, he didn't know, nobody knew, the impact that this movie was going to have on, not just the horror industry, but the film industry in general. This was a movie that, they said had a budget of $500,000 or $550,000. And now, as this is being filmed in February 2021, the Jason Voorhees Friday the 13th is, the industry is worth over $1 billion, right? Jason and Friday the 13th is worth over $1 billion on something that started as a $500,000 project just to create, make money to fund future projects. So that's pretty insane when you really sit and think about it. This was supposed to be the only one. There wasn't supposed to be, a part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, and so on. It was supposed to be a one-off. Obviously, that's why, Jason in the original movie is supposed to be dead. And then Mrs. Voorhees is beheaded at the end. That's supposed to end it. And then obviously with the success, Paramount was like, yo, we need to, jump on this right now and make a part 2 right away. And therefore, Jason somehow survived, was alive, was living, by himself in the, woods somewhere in some shack. And then thus becomes the killer because Mrs. Voorhees was beheaded in the original. So that's kind of how we got here, how we got there, how this is all kind of put together, the reasoning behind it. This is a great movie. I mean, if you look at this as kind of just a standalone, because Jason is really the killer from 2 to 12, right? I mean, other than part 5 in which it's an imposter, but really the Jason Voorhees character is the the killer, or the premise, or the whatever for the killer in all the rest of the movies, and Mrs. Voorhees is in the original. So it's kind of like a standalone, even though it's in kind of involved in the series. So the things I like about this movie, just kind of the way it's filmed. I'm a big fan of how Sean Cunningham, unlike John Carpenter with Halloween, he kind of left the mystery of the killer, until the end of the movie, right? You saw a lot of like POV, point of view shots, killings, things of that nature, just boots walking, a shoulder or an arm coming through the camera, or, a hand or an arm just kind of, slashing the throat, but you never really saw who it was. So it left that mystery and that intrigue until the end, until we find out it's Mrs. Voorhees, who later we find out is named Pamela. Really like the way that was done, the way that things were shot. There's a scene in this where the comic relief in this movie is a guy named Ned, and he's, kind of on the shore watching Kevin Bacon and his old lady kind of make out, and, he's kind of down on himself because he doesn't have, a lady of his own. So he starts like walking along the shoreline of Camp Crystal Lake. And as he's walking up to this cabin that's sort of up and away, he sees like a figure that's kind of standing in the doorway on the porch, and then it just kind of turns and walks into the cabin. You can't really see who it is. You can't really see what it is, male, female. So that was really, really brilliant, the way that things like that shot were done. Obviously, this is, probably, the first movie that you could really say was possibly a breakout role for Kevin Bacon. Obviously, he went on to do Footloose, and things of that nature that were obviously bigger movies that made him a bigger star. But this was really, a movie that, kind of put him in everybody's, vision and in everybody's mind as a legit star. There are people who were behind the scenes that said you could just tell that, Kevin Bacon had star quality and he was going to be a star. He was going to be something bigger than, Friday the 13th. There was going to be something bigger than this movie. He's good. He's good in this movie at, kind of what he's intended to do. This movie has, like all the other movies, it has characters of different backgrounds. They all bring something. Somebody is the sensible person. Somebody, we have a couple that's really flirty and just wants to, get high and have sex, and Kevin Bacon and his girlfriend. You have Ned, who, is the comic relief. You have Steve Christie, who's the guy who, after Camp Crystal Lake was closed down because two counselors were murdered back in, I believe it was 1958 is where the movie starts out. And it shows, counselors playing, guitar and stuff around a campfire. And then two counselors go to kind of mess around. And then, they are startled by somebody in the room and they get killed. And that's kind of how the movie starts out. And the camp closes down. And Steve Christie, years later, reopens the camp. And he's the guy that's kind of in charge of getting things together. There are no campers at the camp, throughout the entire movie. This movie takes place, like maybe a week before, a couple of days before, 2 weeks before the campers are supposed to show up, and it's about them trying to, get the camp ready, do things to get ready for the campers to show up, and then as they're doing all these things, they slowly start getting knocked off one by one. There are some cool kills, obviously, in this movie. An axe to the face. Kevin Bacon's laying on a bunk bed, smoking a joint, and he gets an arrow through his throat right here, and it spins, which is really cool. It's probably the coolest kill of the movie. There's a scene where his character on the archery range, and it's raining, and the lights on the archery range come on, and you don't actually see it, but it cuts out and you hear the scream, so you can just kind of let your mind work as to what happened and how that kill went down. It's a very cool and unique horror movie. It's like the original Halloween. It's probably the best movie of the series, just based upon script, acting, the surroundings, the atmosphere, and the kills and things like that. It's like the on the original Halloween, that it's a little slow in spots, and therefore it's not really near the top of my list. I have this in the middle of the pack as far as the Friday the 13th series go. That's just because I'm a bigger fan, obviously, of the Jason Voorhees character, and his style and just kind of what he brings to the screen. I'm a bigger fan of that than kind of the Mrs. Voorhees thing. But there are a lot of things to like about this movie. There's a lot of things about the way it's shot, the angles it's shot at, the mystery, the intrigue, who is the killer, we don't know. That really make this movie a really good movie, and it's a classic as far as the history of horror movies is concerned. So obviously Mrs. Voorhees, she has the right intentions, or the right intentions, but not the right mind frame as to kind of how to go about things. Right, her whole thing is, the camp is being reopened. Her son died. The counselors let him drown. So instead of letting that happen to another kid or another couple of kids, then she's going to go out and kill all these counselors so that the camp doesn't get open, and that can't happen to somebody else's kids. So the thought process she has you know, maybe the right one, but she just obviously goes about it the wrong way. And that's kind of, you know, the simplicity and the tragedy, if you want to say, of, you know, Mrs. Voorhees and, you know, the original Friday the 13th. So hope you like the review. Leave a comment in the section below. Let me know what you think about this movie. Let me know what you think about what I said. If you agree with me, disagree with me, it's all good. Thumbs up if you want, thumbs down. Subscribe to the channel if you want to. Like I said, I got a lot more content coming. Share the video if you want.